Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I'm your host, Tamara. Today we are discussing our September buddy read thriller title. If you would like to see this in video format without ad breaks, you'll need to head on over to Patreon to sign up. Along with ad-free video podcast episodes, you'll gain access to after shows, reading vlogs, and other exclusive content. If you're not into Patreon and you happen to be listening on the Spreaker podcast app, you too now have access to the after shows and other exclusive content in audio only. If you prefer videos, including vlogs, you'll need to check out Patreon instead. Join me and my two co-hosts over on the Book Club's app for even more bookish chats. Please subscribe and like the podcast wherever you're listening. If you'd like to reach out to me, you can find me everywhere at Shelf Addiction. Joining me today is feature co-host Classy from the Bookish Virtual Assistant. Welcome back, Classy.
Hey, Tamara, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. We are slowly moving into sweater weather, as you can see.
Yes, I see that sweater. Actually, it was really cold the last couple days. It was so I left the gym at 8 p.m. It was dark. I was like, shit.
I know. I was thinking that same thing. I could walk the dogs until 8:30 and it's still some light. And now it's
the sun's down.
No.
It wasn't dark, but the sun was down. I'm like, oh no, it's over. Summer is over. And then this morning I went outside to put something in the trash cans. And it had that fall, that
mist on
that
the cans.
Mist. And it had it was foggy outside, from when it's cold at night. It had that fog and it had the trees are turning colors. I said, oh, it's fall. It's officially fall.
No, we still have, it's not until the 21st, but.
I know. The weather's confused.
The weather has definitely changed. It has shifted. So
yes, but I do love this season, so I'm kind of okay with it.
I know, because we did have nice summer.
I know we did. It was a nice summer. It wasn't too bad. Tell everyone where they can find you online.
You can find me online at the Bookish Virtual Assistant on all social media platforms except for X, because I left his ass.
I don't blame you.
And Classy Green. As well, except for on Instagram, I'm Classy Green 1, because somebody, I don't know
Thieves.
who, right, trying to take my identity. So it's Classy Green 1 on Instagram.
Before we begin, just would like to remind you that we talk full spoilers here with Book Chats, so spoiler alert, you have been warned. Today, we are discussing the book The Last Mrs. Parrish, written by Liv Constantine. The audiobook is narrated by Suzanne Elise Freeman and Megan Wolfe. Published on October 17th, 2017 by Harper and Harper Audio. The hardcover is 390 pages. The unabridged audio is 12 hours. Classy, would you kindly share the synopsis?
As well. 12 hours? Wow. Okay, I'm sorry. It didn't feel like that. But
No.
Anywho, Amber Patterson is fed up. She's tired of being a nobody, a plain, invisible woman who blends in the background. She deserves more, a life of money and power like the one blonde-haired, blue-eyed goddess Daphne Parrish takes for granted. To everyone in the exclusive town of Bishop's Harbor, Connecticut, Daphne, a socialite and philanthropist, and her real estate mogul husband Jackson are a couple straight out of a fairy tale. Amber's envy could eat her alive if she didn't have a plan. Amber uses Daphne's compassion and caring to insinuate herself into the family's life, the first step in a meticulous scheme to undermine her. Before long, Amber is Daphne's closest confidant, traveling to Europe with the Parrishes and their lovely young daughters and growing closer to Jackson. But a skeleton from her past may undermine everything that Amber has worked towards. And if it is discovered, her well-laid plans may fall to pieces. With shocking turns and dark secrets that will keep you guessing until the very end, The Last Mrs. Parrish is a fresh, juicy, and utterly... Sorry.
You said juicy. Juicy.
I didn't that using. Wow. Okay, I'm sorry. An utterly addictive thriller from a diabolically imaginative talent. I'm sorry, Stammer. Juicy?
Juicy. Fresh, juicy, and utterly addictive.
I'm sorry, guys.
Oh, I don't know.
Who uses juicy?
I haven't seen that in a description.
Thriller. This
No.
is in the thriller. Well, from Goodreads, and I'm assuming they probably marketed this as a thriller suspense with a juicy.
Juicy.
Okay, I'm sorry, guys. That cracked me the hell up. I'm sorry, I couldn't help.
I think, yeah, maybe they meant juicy in the way that soap operas are juicy, kind of. But still, that's like really old. Who says that?
I know. Yeah, because I mean, there were some. Okay, we'll get into juicy later, but that just reading it out loud, I was like, who the hell wrote this? I'm sorry.
Somebody who was watching Days of Our Lives in 1985. I'm just saying.
I think you might be right because juicy just was like, how?
I don't know. Yeah, that was funny.
Okay. No. I'm glad I'm not the only one. I'm about over here to tear up over here after read that. I was like, because I didn't read the synopsis beforehand. Someone recommended this. So I was just like, okay, let's try this. Oh, God. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Let me get myself together, folks.
All right, we'll get it together, y'all. Okay, so high level, what did you think when you finished the book?
Oh, child. Be careful what you wish for. Karma's a bitch. And why the hell does this feel like The Housemaid by Frida McFadden?
That's what I said. I said it sounded like The Housemaid, but The Housemaid is newer.
Exactly.
Yeah. I said this seemed like The Housemaid.
Yes. I was like, Frida.
Yeah, I said that too. I said, wow, this feels awfully familiar.
Yeah, except for like Frida had a little more sensationalism with the locked room, time, keeping the woman in the room and making her seem, she had a little more sensational pieces than this, because this story is more elite or the 1%ers.
Yeah.
But
it had the same vibes.
Oh yeah. I'm like, Frida she took enough creative liberties to make sure it wasn't on the verge of being, broad, you just stole my story. Yeah. I'm like reading this story and I'm listening, because I didn't read it. I listened. And I was like, God, this sounds really familiar. But yeah, that's that's my high level. Not to say it was horrible, because I had to kind of give it its props because of the time that it was published. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But how about you, high level?
Well, I kind of had some similar comments as you for Amber's ass. I said, you got what you asked for, bitch.
Cause he was just like, Jackson was cut and paste, man. He was just like, oh, new broad, same.
I said he's doing the exact same thing.
Man, Bora. When I was like, oh crap.
He got a formula. So, I mean, okay, sometimes it's easy for me to disassociate with names, but I wish he was named something other than Jackson, because my baby nephew is Jackson, and I'm like, no, not Jackson.
Oh, I get it. I had a guy. I had a guy by the name of Xavier who in high school that I hated, and I associated hate and dislike with that name for a long time. Yeah, so I could get it. Yeah, Jackson. Oh gosh, Jackson was horrible, and you're like, my nephew is not.
He's
anything
so cute. He would never do something like that. Never. But I had a good time with it. I mean, to be honest, it was really fast. And I had the most reactions with this book, and I always love when I can get audible reactions out of myself when I'm listening or reading. I found myself saying,
I
damn,
know.
I would just blurt out those kind of
Mm-hmm.
obscenities.
Yes. Or you be like
God.
the pause, you like, did I hear
Yeah.
that right? The only
Yeah.
difference with you is, and maybe, and I had to like check myself because I'm like, is my patience run thin? Because I felt like it was slow at the beginning,
It was. But it
but
picked up.
it was still interesting. The
Mm-hmm.
pace was slow, but it was still interesting. And I got what they were doing because Liv Constantine is a duo authorship, is two sisters and they've blended their names together.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what the sisters' names are, but but I get it. Like they were setting the they were doing character development and I appreciate it. But I was just like, oh, have mercy. But
So
at the same
look,
point, it was interesting.
so speaking of that, like I honestly, I think they turned the page and things got interesting right at the right point because I found
Yes.
myself saying, "How much longer is this gonna go?" And
And
then,
50%
bam,
mark. I
yeah,
think it was like right at the 50. If it wasn't 54,
it was like,
55.
yeah, it was like,
And I
well,
was
for
like,
me, it
okay,
was
they
like
got the formula.
it was a little bit sooner than that for me. I think it was right when part 2 started for
Yeah.
me, and I think that's around 40,
Okay,
43,
was
40,
it?
so
Yeah.
40 something
When
percent.
Daphne's part, right. Whenever Daphne's
Yeah.
story came, yeah. But
Yeah,
I was
and
just like, oh my God, all this opulence, all this, oh, Amber, Amber. But I also think it was because we read Amber's prequel. And I
mhm.
was like, okay, Classy, back up because you read the prequel.
So why her ass ain't learned nothing? She ain't learned shit. She kept talking about she wouldn't make that mistake again, but she was so dumb. So
Greedy.
dumb.
She was greedy. She was past dumb. She had got to the point of just greed. And yeah,
Look, I get it. I understand the greed had her, the dollar signs in her eyes had her blinded to everything else. But my God, don't you have any sense of self preservation? And
yeah.
she even, this character, Amber, even noticed Amber, aka, what's her real name anyway? Lana.
Luna,
Lana.
Lana. Yeah,
She
Lana.
noticed things, spoke to it, and said, carry on. Like,
Just
you's a dumb one.
it just went over because she was like, she basically felt like nobody's smarter. I'm smarter than everybody else in the room.
She's not.
Because she thought she got a simpleton when she got to Daphne, which at first I thought too, like, God dang, Daphne is just handing Jackson to her, like, here, you're such a, uh, well, like the daughter said, you ugly. She was like, she homely. Jackson would, that's how I felt at first. And then there were just little simple things, and I was like, oh, she doesn't just think she's homely. Something is going on.
Mhm.
But yeah,
That was
but
one
what
of the
I would,
parts I said, damn, the little girl said, you're ugly. I
you
said,
ugly.
damn.
I was like, shit. Out of the
Like,
mouth of
oh
babes.
shit. Like, she just uttered that shit out like it was common knowledge. What's the problem? She is.
But after we hear what her daddy does,
Oh God.
that's
Look,
normal language in the house.
so you guys, we were texting about this and I didn't want to give the little girl a break. I was like, this little bratty ass little kid. And when I got to that part when he started talking to Daphne, his wife, like she was just shit in front of the kids, I said, no wonder the little girl talks like this. And I said, well,
Mm-hmm.
she gets a pass because she
Yeah.
sees her daddy saying, oh, she got this ugly outfit on. She's fat. She's this. And the little girl is watching all of this.
Yeah.
And then you wonder why she just calling people out for their ugliness because
Mm-hmm.
it's normal to do that.
Yeah. What are you doing here? Why are you
Yeah.
here?
Yeah.
Shouldn't you, like, basically, don't you got a life? But yeah, as her dad
It's
talked
her
to
dad.
his He didn't. And at first, I thought it was just to the mom, but he even said it to the kids.
Yeah, he's like, you look, at one point the poor little girl, the same one with the bad attitude. What's her little name?
Bella.
Bella,
Bella was
the
not
bad
that smart.
attitude. She's very smart. She was just dyslexic. And
Mm-hmm.
he thought that how dare she be dyslexic? We can't have this in no one can know. This is gonna be embarrassing. He would
Yeah.
make her read every day at dinner.
Yeah.
And when she messed up, he would shame her. You're not getting any dessert until you read this book.
Yeah. And I mean, to the point where the other sister was calling her a dummy. And I mean, she just picked up on what dad was saying.
Yeah.
And it was almost like a competition for his affection. Like, if you're perfect, you won't get called.
Yeah.
But I mean, even the perfect one, she started whining after she's heard her dad say mean things to mom, and he was like, "Put the crybaby to bed." I was like, "See, that's
Mm-hmm.
when you can't turn it off. You're just
And the older sister, she's strong because she corrected. She's like, she's not fat. She's not this. And he like, get her ass out of here. Go to
get the
bed.
crybaby, put the crybaby to
Yeah.
bed." And I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, you are class A asshole."
Because at one point, I think the woman says she was like 130 something pounds.
Yeah.
He was calling her fat. I'm like, what the fuck? She's 137 pounds.
He said, "I'm married to size 4, and I need you to be a size
Yeah.
4 so you can fit into all that
Get your
stuff that
ass
I
back
bought
into
you."
that expensive ass clothes I bought you.
Yeah.
Get back in
Oh.
all that designer clothes, size 4.
Whew.
So this man, y'all, and let me tell you, this is what I saw pretty immediately. I said, this some sleeping with the enemy type shit up in here.
Yeah, you did.
Because I could, like, one of the earliest signs, and I should have marked where it was, but I feel one of the earlier things was when Amber was snooping and she was looking through their cabinets. And
Oh.
everything was faced the same way. I remember it looking like that in that movie. And Julia Roberts'
Mhm.
character was all trying to line things up, and she was all and then when Amber accidentally spilled some juice or wine or whatever it
Wine,
was,
yeah.
she jumped up to clean that shit up so fast. I said, "Oh my god."
Yeah, this isn't just her being a type A,
Yeah,
because
no.
that's what Amber tried to put it off as. Oh, she's just type A. I can't imagine. She just, everything has to be so clean and pristine.
She's a dummy. Amber's a dummy. For someone who's so trying to pay attention to everything and everybody, she missed big tells. Big
Mhm.
tells. I'm like, something is very wrong here.
Yeah.
And I could tell almost immediately.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, the things like him always touching her, because I've
Mm-hmm.
seen, them say, like, you can tell if a man, it's not just he love bombed her, basically. It was love bombing, that's what they call it now, one on one. Like, he wanted to make sure she didn't need anything. He took care of her dad when the dad had a heart attack. And I mean, this man, he had only known her for a couple of months, and when her dad had a heart attack, he basically just works remotely. That's what it was considered. That's what it would be considered now, but takes care of her parents.
He was working at their Airbnb, their bed
Yeah.
and breakfast, and he was
Mhm.
like,
Yeah, so he was
yeah,
love bombing them, trying to make sure that they didn't need anything and they could be totally reliant upon her. But he always had to touch her. And to other people, that's like, "Oh, he's so affectionate." And, "Oh, look at them. They can't keep their hands off of each other." But those are all signs of an
those
abusive.
are tells.
Those are big tells of a abusive man. And
Yeah.
then he wanted, like, she was, she was the head of her fundraiser, and she gave that speech for their big rate. He was like, "Yeah, you should have had me look over that speech." And I was like, "Ooh,
I
whoa, whoa,
know.
whoa, whoa,
Like,
whoa!
what is
This is
she, a
her
child?
fundraiser."
Yeah, she's been doing this foundation for years and years and years. You
Mm-hmm.
need to check her work. Is that
Yeah.
what you're doing?
Yeah, that was one of mine too.
That was
Like,
very offensive.
that made me, yeah, and said it in front of Amber.
Mm-hmm.
Like, some things
Mm-hmm.
you will only say in front of the person or maybe the kids, because it's what's in this house stays in this house. But to say it in front of company, I was like, he couldn't let that slip. Like,
No.
I was like, okay, Mr. Jackson is not all he seems to be.
No, there were also other tales before they even got married. Before they even got married, while he was love bombing her, he did essentially force her parents into taking this massive gift that the father didn't even want to take.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I bought you a new roof. It'll be installed. And the father's like, hold on, chill out, man. No,
Yeah, daddy.
I don't want your money. I don't want the roof. We're not cool like that.
He's like, this is my stuff. I'm a man.
I'll take care of it when I want to take care of it.
Yeah.
And then in the moment he did this, I said, oh shit, there it is. There it is. The minute he turned sad and said, I just wanted to be a part of the family. And the mother says, oh, we'll take your gift. We'll happily accept it. And then he was happy. I said, oh shit.
Yeah. And when she said her dad didn't smile, she said, my dad smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I was like, oops.
He was manipulative from day one.
Yeah.
Day one. And you could tell the evolution. It starts little things. And then the minute you do something they don't like, it just goes a little further and a little further. Like that one scene in the kitchen where she like laughs at something. She's like so tired of his bullshit. She's so over it. And she just starts laughing. And he cannot stand it. So he starts throwing shit at her out of the refrigerator, like throwing food at her, throwing shit.
Oh, and the juices weren't
lined up. He's throwing, like he was talking about, I forgot, it was the exact kind of juice he even said in there, the type of juice.
Wasn't it like BAI? Some kind of, they weren't organized right.
Yeah, and he's throwing shit, making a mess, and then he's like, you clean this up.
And don't tell the help. And don't ask the help to do it.
No.
Because this is your fault.
Mess. I'm like, God damn! I'm like, this motherfucker he would not survive the night.
Girl, and when he stood over that, when I knew he was crazy too when he was talking about the babies and if the babies weren't perfect, because they had to get tested because her foundation is for cystic fibrosis. And she wanted to make sure, with their first babies, that none of the babies, that they didn't carry the gene. She carried the gene, but wanted to make sure he didn't, or their child would have it. And he was just like, and if we do, and we'll just abort and try it again.
Yeah. She was like, what?
Oh, image is everything.
She was like, why would you? And then he just did not like anything she was saying. No. It was an argument, and she thought it let it go, but he didn't let it go.
No, because he was, and then he used that against her about, you just can't let your sister's death go. You just keep harping on it. Maybe you need to see somebody. I was like, ugh.
So this guy got people that he knows because of his influence, doctors and other people, to make her seem like she crazy. He had her ass committed.
Yeah, people that owed him favors, basically.
Yeah.
Because he was a nasty guy.
Yeah, and he just escalated so far to the point where he's putting a pew-pew in her mouth. She wakes up and there's something cold and metal in her mouth, and I'm sure you guys know what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. I feel like I was shocked. I'm like, oh my God.
I was like, I know that's not what I think it is.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's where when we got to those kind of points, I was like, so that's where in my mystery thriller suspense, crime fiction lover brain, I was like, with the genre tags. And I was like, is this really? Because this is almost kind of like dark romance, maybe? Almost literary, like.
No, that's not dark romance because
that's not dark.
It's not dark romance because.
Well, yeah, right. Because it wouldn't be considered romance because it wasn't
It wasn't gunplay. They both didn't know what was happening.
Thank you for correcting me on that.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
why.
It wasn't like consensual and it's like,
Right.
oh, we're playing. Yes, it
Right.
wasn't. But it was just like, what is this? Is this really?
And I had a hard time understanding. I feel like I would have done everything to get away with him from him. I don't care what. I feel like she let that go a lot longer for years. For years that went on.
I know when they said it was Tallulah's 10th birthday.
Yeah, years.
And I was like, because I was thinking to myself, 5? But it was 10 years.
A decade.
Yeah.
And this guy is so bad. Like, he did so much shit to her. Like, she probably will be single for the rest of her life. Fuck these guys. I'm not letting anybody near me. That's how I would be.
Yeah.
Because he totally, wow. He gave her, she ended up with a fucking almost an eating disorder because of his ass, basically. She has so much to work through with body image, self-image, food. Trust. I mean, all of this. It's like, it's caused her so many problems. And the craziest part was, he almost wasn't even going to let her go. I said, oh my God. He's going to try to.
He tried everything under the sun to make this woman feel like she was mentally unstable.
Yeah. He was cheating, telling Amber all the things, and he had no plans on divorcing her. 0.
None. Until she, you know what surprised me is in this story, I thought she knew about Amber a lot sooner than she did. But when her story, when it came to her, because it was told in dual POV. So part 1 was all Amber, which was probably up to the 50% mark, maybe 45% mark. And then Daphne's story comes in. And it does get to be a little repetitive, but we hear it from different points of view. And at one point, like Tamara said, we were, chatting about this. And I'm like, she's just giving her husband, to him, to Amber. But when I was like, we realized beforehand that something is going on. But I thought she knew Amber was playing games way before Meredith came to her about her background. Because I was like, no, she's not that dumb. She had to research. But she was so gullible and just believing and blah, blah, blah. And come to find out, she really didn't know Amber was a fraud until about that time, if not a little bit later.
But think about it, though. The interactions with Jackson and Amber did not increase until after that revelation.
It did.
So until then, she was wanting to dote on her like a sister. Let me buy you clothes and get you this. She was like giving her gifts, and she was treating her like her long lost sister, basically.
Right.
But after she found out about her, that is when hey, you need a job, let me let you work at my husband's company. Hey, why don't you stay at that apartment? Hey, like those things where she was actively pushing them together didn't happen till after.
Right. And that was a point when Amber said that she got fired. And that's when I think that's when, that catalyst or that climax or that switch did come, because, it was, let's go on the boat. Let's do this, and that. So yeah, it did.
Invite you to Christmas. Invite you. Hey, this perfume I'm allergic to. She dropped all these things knowing because that she was a scam artist. She knew exactly what she would pick up and do with it.
Yeah. Yep.
She was Daphne was very smart. When she got it together and figured out what the fuck was going on, she knew exactly what breadcrumbs to drop for her to pick up and use them to grab her husband.
Yeah. And not only that, because, her husband was like, she's basically a dumb bumpkin from whatever little town. You need to take French classes. Well, Daphne stopped taking the French classes and started taking psychology classes and really began to know the signs of a psychopath, basically, or narcissist or whatever.
She's several.
Yeah. And she started picking up on, and she started playing the game and playing on him psychologically, and she flipped the script on his ass.
She did. But again, he almost didn't even care. He's like, oh, I know someone who is having a baby. We can adopt a baby.
I
He almost
know.
didn't even let her go still. And she like, oh, fuck, what is he talking about? You know,
Mhm.
she like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. But I was just like, okay, so now I see how she's doing
Yeah.
this with playing his game, and it was really nice where it was subtle to the point where she still coddled him a little bit, or kind of gave, oh, is this what you want? Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm just so stupid. I didn't tell Amber that you were gonna be at the because at first he was like, Amber's just to help. But she was like, but Amber's ass has a game plan that you don't even know about.
So, I mean, with her working kind of in concert with her without Amber being aware of her doing that.
Yes.
Wow. That was so crazy. Like, for real. I couldn't believe how seamless that was. He thought he was the smartest fucking
I
person in the room.
know. I love that part. That he just thought, yeah, I got this. It's all in the bag. And she was like, Oh, I'm just so sorry. I didn't realize I did. Oh, let me check my messages. Oh, I didn't send it.
And you know what? It was fine because guess what? He was always calling her dumb. He was always calling her,
So it fit the description. She fit the description.
I'm acting exactly how you think I should act.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't so out of character because he was talking down to her from day. Oh, I could not believe how quickly he flipped the script on her. That happened quickly.
Yeah. And at first, like when you read this kind of stuff, he's like, who does this? Oh my God. It happens. It happens. This kind of stuff happens. And like even in Daphne's story, from what she was reading, she's like, psychopaths know immediately just from your body language.
Mm-hmm.
They recognize, like they smell weakness.
Or people, as she said in the book, with higher levels of empathy.
Mm-hmm.
People who are more empathic, like feel empathy toward others more, are easier targets for them.
One of her quotes, and I wrote it down, gosh darn it, was, there's nothing more nothing entices me more than being needed. Mm-hmm. That was one of her quotes. And I wrote that down before I think we may have got to her part. And she was saying, yeah, because she had just met him, and how he looked at her when they made love. He just looked into her soul, and how he felt like, my mom died at a young age, and I was the only child. And she made that comment. And I was like, this is going to be critical. This little line right here, besides the one with the windshield, that was obvious, the crack in the windshield and the pebble, but that line of being needed, and he knew that.
Yeah.
And he used that to his advantage with her.
He sure did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think now is a great time to take a break. I have a lot more things to cover, a lot more things that happened. So by listening to the commercials, you are supporting the podcast. Don't forget to pick up a copy of the book review journal, available right now on Amazon. We'll be right back. Today's episode is brought to you by the Shelf Addiction merch store. Check out all the bookish t-shirts, notebooks, mugs, and more. Don't miss out on these original designs, perfect for any book nerd. Support the podcast and visit shelfaddiction.com/merch and pick up your next favorite bookish item. Okay, welcome back, guys. You were talking about how Daphne kind of expressed like it was a sign of what was to come, and how her wanting to be needed was going to be later to her own detriment. But I also think there were signs that she had, like outside of her parents, outside of her interactions at her home base, there were other things that happened very early in the marriage, like right after they got married, I would have got home from that honeymoon and never seen him again. I would have ghosted his ass immediately.
Yeah.
So he won't. First off, I'm not going on no surprise ass honeymoon. You're not telling. You gonna tell me where we're going?
But he made it seem so romantic.
I know.
You know.
I can't imagine. And that's another thing. That's like that millionaire, billionaire romance trope. Sweep you off your feet, pay for everything, private jets.
Yeah. And then her mother was like, don't let him go. You know, you just think, I've never had this before. But like you said, there were telltale signs, and she even recognized, because he was like, when he unpacked her suitcase
Yeah.
and then said, your country bunking Airbnb like your parents. Oh, that you're an elitist. And when he talked about his dad's girlfriend, the 60-year-old waitress.
Yeah. I mean, the way he talked
I'm not
about
having babies with you.
Look, the way he talked about her clothing choices, like even when they were going to this, even on their honeymoon, how he managed the restaurants, he dictated everything they did that entire honeymoon.
Yeah.
She had zero input, zero.
No.
And she just went along.
Because it seemed romantic.
But
I
you
didn't
could
have to
tell.
do anything. Yeah.
You could tell that she felt a way about it, but she kept her mouth shut to keep the peace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But had she opened her mouth, he might have exposed himself even more faster before she had any kids with him.
Yeah.
And she could have hoofed it out of there.
Yeah.
Because he was showing himself the whole time. Mm-hmm. But I think she just didn't expect him to escalate that far.
Yeah. Because even when right after they had sex, and I laugh at this because I didn't have that extreme, but I had a guy, after we went out on a date, sent me flowers and calls. And thank God I was like, do not answer his call. No, I'm not here. But how he flooded her office with all these roses.
Oh, like 12 dozen roses or something
and
crazy.
She was like, he comes on a little strong. You think?
Yeah. That's not romantic. That's creepy.
That's scary. You're basically marking your territory.
Yeah.
You're letting everybody know this is mine.
And he does this, even like literally verbatim. He does this. He gives her a necklace. And this necklace says, what was the initials on the necklace?
Your mind's bitch.
Yeah, your mind, bitch. Your mind, YMB. He has this on a necklace that he gives her in front of the kids and everything. And she's in there smiling through it, trying not to show her cards, but she is raging.
Yeah.
And then we find out later he has this on the gun. That he likes to stick in people's face. Because Amber experiences the same. He treats everyone the same. She didn't have the weapon in her mouth, but she wakes up and he's like got a gun in her face.
Yeah.
I did not understand. She's like, what's happening? She was so petrified.
Yeah, because she thought she was the fucking prize. Everything that Daphne wasn't, she thought she was. Oh, Daphne doesn't like to do sex play. Daphne doesn't like to wear this little collar that you like. Daphne, I'll be everything you want and more. And you weren't. Now, he even told her, you can't light a candle to Daphne. I was like,
damn. Yeah. That's like, damn. But see,
what?
Again, though. But look, Daphne, and yes, I think because she was trying to make sure Amber got hers, she went and told after she was free of him for a couple of months, she went and said, hey, I got something for you. Look at this shit. And she exposes Amber to him. And she says, if you don't relinquish your rights to these kids, I'm about to tell everything. So at that point, he's like, he doesn't really want to, but he's like, fine, fuck it. I don't care. Just get out of here. He was more concerned with his reputation than his own children.
Yep. She didn't know. She had so many cards in her hand.
Yeah, so he does this, but that was the switch that flipped him very fast on Amber. He came home and he was someone else.
Yeah. And she
She,
was just like,
yeah, and she thought that he was doing that to her because she was caught. But later, when Daphne comes and kind of confronts her about it, she like, you having fun? Enjoy it
is it
while it
everything?
lasts.
She's like, is it everything you wished for?
Yeah.
With your painting of you naked in your pregnant belly, is it everything you wished for? Everything. You and that baby
Everything.
boy. The
Yeah,
things
no.
you gotta do to live that life, you
Not worth
basically
it.
have to have sex whenever he wants,
Anytime.
however he wants, anytime he wants, and be degraded.
Yes.
It's not just, you know what I mean? It's degrading.
Yeah, he does the degrading stuff and it's
Yeah.
like they feel they have no choice but to comply or else.
Yeah. Because that or you're gonna be in jail.
Mhm. Or the loony bin in Daphne's case, right? He
Mm,
constantly was threatening her with getting her ass locked up
mm-hmm. Yeah.
and she needs to be there for her children. And the crazy part is, so after she had the first child and he act crazy, I couldn't understand how she had a second child. I couldn't get it. And then I
I know.
understood how that happened. I was like, fuck, okay. But then Daphne, again, she's so smart. She finally got her life together. She figured out I have to outplay him.
Yeah. And I think that's where that time frame comes into play. Because I
Mm-hmm.
know a lot of times we want to say, oh, I'd have been gone. But it's a long game,
Yeah.
because she mentioned how she kept tucking away money because
Mm-hmm.
she
Like she saved
knew,
30 grand over
yeah,
those
because she
years.
knew she wasn't working,
Mm-hmm.
that I got to get out of here. And he's not going to just give me this money. Because remember, so she was tucking away money. She was selling off some of his gifts. Because every time he'd be an asshole to her, he would turn around and gift her, which is a narcissistic trait.
Yeah.
Instead of apologizing, I'll just buy you something. Just here.
Because the
Shut up.
apologies don't mean anything.
Yeah, just
It's
shut
just
up. Look,
it's
look
a
at
hush
this.
hush gift. Yeah.
So she was selling off, handbags and hiding money under the jewelry boxes. So yeah, she had to play a long game. And at first you do want to say, but it was a fuck
Yeah.
because she had to figure out how do I, because he always told her, I'm always one step ahead of you. If not,
Mm-hmm.
no, two steps ahead of you,
Mm-hmm.
basically. So she had to figure out, how do I get out of this?
And honestly, if it wasn't for Amber showing up, she wouldn't have gotten out of it. Because
Mm-mm.
I know she'd like to think she could, but 30 grand won't go far.
No.
When
Not, and
she,
especially in their town and two kids in the
no,
lifestyle that they lived.
yeah, she wouldn't
No.
have had the leverage. She wouldn't have been out of that marriage without Amber. It was Amber's unfortunate luck that there was someone who found out about her and she had all the skills and all the knowledge to get everything to work in her favor. But without Amber, Daphne would have been in that until her kids left, were
Yes.
adults,
She would have been the classic. I was in it for the kids.
because
I
she
was
could.
stated.
Her kids needed to be adults. They
Yeah.
needed to be adults, and then she could get away with from him, and there was nothing he could do about it at that point. So her youngest child would have had to be 18 years old before she left him,
Mm-hmm.
if it wasn't for Amber showing up.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Ugh.
Because there's no way she would have got. There's no way he was tracking her. He was spying on
Yeah.
her.
I know.
It's
And
like
then
I would
being cruel with the turtle. I was like, you are a bastard.
see that was. I'm like, you told him one thing. I would have started
And he
acting
used
like
it
I
again.
like the turtles, just out of spite. I'll start acting like I like them
Mm-hmm. So you can
instead of
find something
asking
else.
him to get rid of them. I would have been like, I would
Yeah.
have not paid the turtles any mind. I wouldn't have given him anything.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
if it pissed me off and I was sad about it, I would hide it.
Mm-hmm. Them suckers would be flipped upside down, hidden behind something.
No, I'd leave them right where they are. Because the minute he realized they don't bother you anymore, he'll move on to the next
True.
thing.
Yeah, very true.
As long as he knows it's irking you, he's going to keep showing up with the fucking turtles.
Yeah. Ugh. And then Amber buys him a turtle.
Which
she probably asked him for a gift recommendation.
Yeah, she thought she was being nice. You know, she thought she was like being more sisterly toward her, right?
Yeah, I see all these turtles in here.
And I should have known at that time, like at that time when she gave her the gift, and then Jackson was like, "That's a great gift." I said, "Oh my god!" He was so excited for the turtle gift.
I'm surprised she didn't feed his ass some. Well, she didn't cook some poison. God was like, he needs a little.
He needs a little
arsenic.
Yes, I was saying he needs a little arsenic sprinkled in his food,
in his wine or something.
Look,
just a little bit.
She needs some flowers in the attic him with his food.
Yeah, you don't have to kill him.
Just make him extremely sick.
Yeah, just make him recognize.
Make him sick, and he can't figure out why he's sick.
Exactly. Don't play games with me.
It was crazy. This book was crazy.
Yeah. And this was 2017. And I think the struggle with me and again, I had to manage my expectations with this book because, and I wrote this down. When my friend recommended this book, she was like, "Oh my God, if you guys haven't read this, what is wrong with you? Blah, blah, blah." And I'm reading it. And, we picked up on a lot of stuff early.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've realized that my friend who recommended this book is not mystery, thriller, suspense is not her jam.
Okay.
So for her to come into this book, it was just like, oh, this is, the best thing since sliced bread. Mm-hmm. Which I will not say it wasn't a bad book. But as a seasoned thriller, suspense, mystery, crime fiction reader, you're just like, I saw that. I knew that already. Yeah. But again, it was in 2017. We have read, I don't know how many books in the interim, since this book, and we've gone back. So you got to realize too, like when you go back and you read some older stuff, you're just like, I've read this before. But you got to realize at that time frame, this probably was the shit back in 2017.
Yeah.
Because it was probably innovative and blah, blah, blah. So that's how I had to kind of like manage this with my expectations. Like, it's not that bad. And I enjoyed it. Not to say, I did not enjoy it, but I was just like, when I read it, I was like, and she said, what? And this twist. And I was like, it was only really one like really good substantial plot twist. It wasn't like a whole bunch.
There were two. I guess there were two to me that were reveals to Amber and Jackson. So one was, to me, Amber, the twist for Amber was, oh shit, she played me. That was a twist for her finding out that she got played.
Right.
And then, of course, Jackson finding out at the end that his ass is being arrested because...
Yeah.
Although that kind of came out of nowhere at the end there. I'm like, well, what was this? And I guess it has something to do with the guy that, they got hired as her new assistant, but that kind of got thrown in there at the last minute. Cause I kind of thought that Amber had hired him, and then it made it seem like Daphne had hired him. And I'm like, well, who hired the guy?
I think Amber hired him because she wanted a male guy. She didn't want
But Daphne planted him?
Maybe.
Because she said that
she knew him and that
she knew him from her foundation.
Yeah. So maybe she just kind of told him about a job opening, and knowing that he was a male, that and just knowing Amber's MO, if Amber was going to hire anybody, it would be whatever his name was versus me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because she didn't want anybody like her, because she was like, this mine. But in the end, I did see but it did come out of nowhere. But if you remember, at one point, Jackson had Amber go through all of the finances, all the records. Remember how she realized how much money Daphne was spending on stuff? And now, come to think of it, was Daphne the one spending this money? Because Daphne didn't have any say in the money spending arena. Remember when she said Daphne spent this much for a some kind of bag, like $69,000 on the bag, when in
He was
actuality,
buying it.
So I
And
was
she
like,
was
oh.
assuming it was her shopping.
So when the guy came back and had like did all the finances, I wonder if he kind of dug deeper than what Amber did, you know? But like you said, it was a little
Well, that guy was there trying to get the dirt on his companies, like him doing illegal stuff.
for the funding.
Because I remember Amber saying, when I'm the new missus, I'm going to do the bills because I want to see everything.
Yeah.
So I think that she didn't still know what he was doing with his business money, his business accounting, you know?
She
So
just knew the other spending. Yeah.
yeah, so she was surprised that he was doing that. I think she thought she had a straightforward situation, and clearly she didn't.
Yeah.
In
Ugh.
more ways than one.
Right.
But I do want to ask you this, because this is, I guess, something that some people would not like. Now, for me, let me just preface this by saying, yes, it's fiction. Yes, it was for entertainment. But I know that some people would have a problem with this. So, what about the notion of a woman getting, quote unquote, what she deserved? Because this woman, Daphne, served up a domestic abuse situation to another woman. She served it up. And some people, even though she was there for the wrong reason, some people would still
Mad
shame
about
someone for doing that.
it.
What do you think? Like,
No, you know what? Because she
yeah.
came to me under false pretenses. You came to me as if you were a friend, and I took you in. I'd let you be with my children. We could take Jackson's ass out of this, because Jackson is on paper, but my blood, the children that I birthed, and I saw how you manipulated them with gifts just to get to my husband. Mama Bear don't play there. It's a
So,
dish served. Yeah. Granted, it was abusive.
yeah.
But you came under false pretenses. I thought you were coming, you were a good friend, blah, 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 and you did me dirty. I don't know what else to tell you.
So,
I'm sorry.
you know what? If she had found that Amber wasn't that kind of artist, honestly, she was just going to take her in. She was just going to include her. She had no plans on doing anything bad to that woman.
Nope.
Honestly, Amber could have made out just being that woman's best damn friend.
Yep. Exactly.
But she's greedy.
Yep. That's how, yeah. When you said that, I'm like, especially after we found out when she really figured out that Amber was in it for a totally different motive. You know, like you said, you know, you are with my children. You are sleeping in my guest room. You are like my best friend. Because that's what she had considered her. And you know, you knew what I went through, and I had exposed, you know, I had told you some deep secrets, and you used all of that against me. So I'm not sure. Granted, I served you up to an abuser.
Yeah.
But the end result still was on you, Amber, because you chose this route. I was like, you want his ass? Here you go. But you made the final decision. Yeah. You made the final decision. You basically got pregnant before I could even let his ass go.
She did. She had a plan.
You had a plan already. I don't know what to tell you.
She did have a plan.
Because even if I told you, oops, you know he likes to beat you. You know he likes to choke you out. You know he might do this, this, and that. You got a baby in you now.
See, and I kind of almost just want to give Daphne the pass in the interest of self-preservation. Because, like I mentioned earlier, there was no out for her. Without Amber as this quote-unquote scapegoat, right? Without her, She would have
Yeah.
been there till those kids were 18
Mm-hmm.
because he was controlling every portion of her life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't even know how she was able to get a P.O. box without him knowing. She was so slick to be able to do that without him finding out. She worked double time. I mean, triple time to figure out
Yeah,
how to
because
do
he
that
was
without
tracking
him.
her. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, granted, the author probably, left some of that out, but I'm assuming she probably figured out where were cameras and how was he tracking her and different things like that. Think we should just move on to something else?
Yeah. Well, do you have topics or things that you wrote down that you think we should cover?
Let's see. I'm looking through my notes now. Yeah. Or do we do narrators?
We can talk about the narrators.
Okay. At one point, I was like, I think when it got to the end, it mentioned both narrators, and I was like, oh. At one point, I thought it was one narrator doing two voices.
Oh, you did?
I did, and I was like, oh, okay, it was two. And I mean, I could tell the difference in the voices, but I almost thought it was just one narrator doing dual voices.
Yeah, the difference in their voices wasn't very much. It wasn't very. It would have been nice if maybe one of them had maybe a slight accent or something.
Yeah,
I
or
don't know.
maybe like a deeper intonation or something.
They were
But
very similar.
Yeah, because like I said, when they were like, and this book was narrated by and I was like, oh, even though they probably mentioned it at the beginning, but at the beginning you're just like, yeah, get to the story,
get to it. Yeah, I stopped listening after the author's name.
Yeah, and I tried to do the fastest I could go was 1.8. I tried to go faster, and it was just. And I don't know if it's because their voices were tinny or high. I couldn't go anything higher than 1.8 with
I
them.
listened to at 1.8 for most of it. And then that final stretch after that final stretch at the end, kind of when we fast forwarded 8 months, I was like, let's just get to the end. I listened at 2x at the end. I'm like, come on, let's just get there. Let's get there.
He was like, I've got to the meat of the story.
Yeah.
But I did. I tried to go up because I felt like the pacing was a little slow at the beginning. So I tried to up it to 2 before we got to Daphne, and it was just really odd, and because I mean, we've listened to books at 2.0, but it was just something with the narrators' voices that 2.0 did not work for me. So
that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I generally speaking, I didn't have any issues with the narrators. I agree with you; their voices were similar, but at that point, I mean, I was really tuning in for the story, like the plot, and trying to see. And I was like so aggravated with these characters. I think that they were just quote unquote fine. There was nothing wrong with them.
No,
but they weren't spectacular either. They were average narrators. They're
yeah, because I
fine.
was like, yeah, they were. No major issues. It was more of the plot and the characters getting on my nerve until we got to part 2, and I was like, okay, Daphne. I'm Team Daphne.
So, before we rate, I do want to talk about the title. The title, The Last Mrs. Parrish. What does that mean? So
I was thinking the same thing.
Does it mean that, are we talking past tense? So like Daphne was the last Mrs. Parrish? Or are we talking about Amber? Amber is the last Mrs. Parrish. And if that was the thing, I was like, is it now? Then I kept waiting on old dude to die. Because I'm like, okay, is she the last Mrs. Parrish?
I know.
Like, I don't get it.
And it's been a while since this book was written in 2017, and the next book is coming out.
Oh, it's out now.
Yeah, so I was wondering that as well. Like, what does the last? Because when you say the last, that means there's no one else after you,
right?
So it can't be Daphne, right?
Well, so then book 2,
or it could say they're talking. Yeah.
Okay, so book 2 might help explain it.
Okay.
Book 2 came out in June of 2024, and it's called The Next Mrs. Parrish. Okay. So really quickly, I'll just read the top paragraph. Daphne and Amber Parrish are thrust back into each other's lives upon the resurgence of a long-forgotten threat, forcing a vicious game of cat and mouse where everything is on the line. This is the thrilling sequel to blah, blah, blah. So I'm thinking the last Mrs. Parrish must be Daphne. She was the last one, like as in past. And Amber is the next one, right? Maybe?
Yeah, I guess so. She would be.
And that's why I was wondering, do they mean last as in previous, like the last one, or like the last one as in like the final?
Right, like the one who is current and I have the title.
I don't know. But based on the next book being The Next Mrs. Parrish, and we're talking with Daphne and Amber again.
Yeah. But I guess, that's one of those, we'll just play on all of our readers' intelligence here. Who do you think? I hate when they do that shit. Give me some absolute
I don't
shit.
know.
Because, if you went to ask an author that's what they would do.
Ask the author.
Mm-hmm. If you ask the author that, so who were you referring to? Who do you think?
Like, just answer the question, lady.
You know how, like, when they give us those little weird endings, how do you think it should end?
Just tell us.
You wrote the book. I didn't.
Just tell us what it's supposed to be.
Shit.
Do you want to read The Next Mrs. Parrish?
I think I would want to read it because I'm just curious. For one, I'm curious because this was 2017 when this book came out. So that means it is 7 years past since that book. I would love to see how they wrap this up.
Now, I am curious to see how this would be too, only because if I read into this synopsis a little bit more, it looks like it only time jumps 1 year, less than 1 year.
After the birth of Jackson Jr.?
No, after Jackson's tax evasion scandal.
Okay. Well, I was just saying with the baby. That's all I was.
Well, remember, Amber's baby was 8 months by the time the tax thing happened.
Oh,
8 months had passed.
You're good. Do you remember that? I just knew he was. Yeah, because he wasn't. Yeah, because he wasn't a full year. Because she said she couldn't wait till he was basically just a little lump that could just roll over. She wanted. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we had a couple of mini time jumps. So even though this is written in 2024, is it going to feel like 2018?
Yeah.
Or is it going to feel like now? I mean, I am kind of curious.
Yeah, because the other thing with that would be because since that time, so much has changed. And I know they wouldn't probably come in with hashtags and all that kind of stuff, but so many stories have tried to imitate the last Mrs. Parrish. You see what I mean? I think that's where I want to see how Liv Constantine is going to evolve with this story, because it's like here you have the last Mrs. Parrish, which everybody loved, and then you have all these little people, these other authors who have kind of made stories similar to your story. So you really have to bring your shit to make this part 2 sell. I mean, it's going to sell because they liked it, but past the early reviews, you know what I mean? That's how I'm feeling. Like I can see all your early reviews. You know how we are.
Okay,
early reviews mean nothing to us.
Let's take a look at this. So we are almost mid-September. It's been out since June. Okay, so it's been out a couple of months now.
Yeah, about 3 months, right?
Yeah, almost 3 months. And so far, so the first book, obviously, it's been out a long time. A lot of people have had time to read it, right? So that one had almost 390,000 ratings, rounding up.
Wow.
And the second book has almost 45,000 ratings. So I think for a couple of months, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, because a lot of people probably don't even know it's out yet. You know what I mean? So unless they were tracking for it, or just, it fell into their algorithm, they might not even know the second book exists.
Yeah. Okay.
And then the prequel that we read, okay, so y'all, we read the prequel, or we listened to the Audible exclusive original prequel called The First Shot. And that kind of was our decision maker on if we were going to read this book or not.
Mm-hmm.
And that one came out in 2020. And that one has like a hair under 18,000 ratings. So a lot of people didn't even read Amber's or Lana's origin story.
Right. But yeah, I am interested just to see where they go with this sequel. Because I just feel like, like when you have such a great story, you really got to bring it for that sequel to be good.
Yeah.
And like I said, after so many people have told this story before, like for people who don't know about the last Mrs. Parrish and are reading Frida's story, hint, 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 they think, oh my God, Frida,
Been there, done that.
I mean, it's a Gone Girl. It's kind of like the Gone Girl, situation where you have Gone Girl out here and everybody is trying to do the Gone Girl thing. So I would read it. I don't know if we would do it as a buddy read, but personally, I would read the story on my own. I don't know if that's something you would like to do on a one-off like we do every once in a while. But I would be interested to see how these two sisters do it. I do want to bring this up before we go any further. I felt like their writing was seamless.
You did?
I saw a little difference, but I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I enjoyed you because, some people when they write with dual, you can really tell the difference.
Mm-hmm.
But I enjoyed their dual writing,
Yeah.
especially when they did, and I could see how, with the POVs, and I thought they did a great job.
Yeah, they have similar style. And they've been doing this a long time.
Mm-hmm.
They've been writing together a long time. So at this point, they better have it down.
Well, there's another, and I don't think they're sisters, but it's like, is it Sarah Gerritsen, Garintzy? Oh gosh, I can't remember their names, but they do dual too, and I don't think they're siblings, but they're. Is it? Oh gosh, it was like a Netflix movie that their book was based on. But yeah, I did like their writing.
Yeah, I had no problem with it either. I don't think it's the most exceptional writing I ever read, but there weren't any blaring red flags
No.
anywhere. So that was a good thing. But regarding the next Mrs. Parrish, in my mind, I do want to read it. And it's just something that if I don't read it pretty quickly, I'm going to forget about it.
Yeah, exactly. Because this was so long ago.
So from where I sit, this is something that if you wanted to read it, we could do something on Patreon. So y'all on Patreon, for Patreon and Spreaker supporters, I wouldn't want to do it as a buddy read because I don't want to wait a whole month and then talk about this with the group again. I just don't. Like, I feel
Mm,
like I kind of want, because I have a sinking feeling it might not be as good.
not the sinking feeling.
Yeah, like, you know how sometimes they try to make a star again, they try to recreate the magic, and sometimes it might not quite hit it.
Oh yeah.
Just based on some of the reviews, I kind of want to see for myself, but in case it's bad, I want to save it for the people that understand.
Oh, I get it. I get it.
So that's kind of where I sit with it as far as reading forward. I will read it, but it won't be something on the podcast feed. So it will
Yeah,
be
and it
for
has, and like you said too, it would have to be pretty early on because our TBR is so big that it would get pushed back, and then I don't think I would appreciate it as much if I read it too far out.
let's rate the last Mrs.
I give
Parrish.
it 4. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun.
Okay.
It was like a 3.5. The ending I did not really like. I thought it was sappy. I was like, this is how y'all gonna end the book.
It was a happily ever after kind of ending where you kind of thought this was it. That's why I'm like, why did they even write a second book? This was a true ending. So
yeah, you
I'm
know
with
what? You are so right. So why are you doing the second part?
Yeah. I don't know.
I know.
I know. Me too.
And you know what?
They're
if
like,
you give me enough coins, I'm writing the part 2 too. And however it happens, if it's good or not, I got my coins.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're right. They did. So why? Okay. But yeah, I gave it a 4. Yeah.
Okay. When I first finished the book, I gave it a 4 too. And I'm going to hold to it. I did. Actually, I might, something in me, I could change it, but I won't, because I think the good time I had in the moment when I was done with it, I'm gonna roll with it. So 4 out of 5 it is.
Yes. Yeah, and that's how I felt too, that I enjoyed it. It had its hiccups. It had some issues, but in the overall scheme of things, it was a fun read. You and I have not chatted about a book in text message in a long time. So I felt like that had a bearing on my rating as well. Because I was like, you and I went for a while this morning about this book.
Yeah.
And I felt like for us to have that fun, that said a lot. So that had a lot of bearing, because we haven't. There's been months where we're just like, when we get to the recording, we like, okay, I think we already know what we gonna give this. So I felt like, you know what, it's been a long time since I've had a good time with the story. Yeah, it's a familiar story.
Yeah.
But it was a fun time.
It was very entertaining. So it earned its marks. Okay, I think we're going to end things there before our internet craps out again.
I don't know what the hell is going on. But yes.
Yeah.
I've had some brownouts in my neighborhood, so.
Oh no.
I've woken up to blinking, electronics, so who knows.
Oh shit. Okay. All right. Well, this has been a great conversation. A good time as always.
Oh wait. What's our next book?
Oh shit. Okay, this is okay. I'm going to tell you what we're reading next, but then Classy, we have to talk immediately after this.
Because we may have to change something. Okay.
Yes, we have to change November. So in October, you guys, we are going to be reading The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones.
Yeah, we did decide that we were going to change.
Yeah. So that's what we're reading in October. So come back next month. Allegedly. Look, I said it now. This what's happening. We can't change October after this. I said it.
Okay.
So join us on the Book Clubs app. Come back next month and hear us talk about that book. Join us for book club. The links are in the show notes. We appreciate you for listening to the entire episode. We appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Y'all believe her? Okay.
Yeah, you do.
Okay,
you believe me.
You believe her. Good Indians, Stephen Graham. Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
It's happening. Okay, y'all. We'll catch you next time. Take care of yourselves. Bye, guys. Did you enjoy today's episode? If so, please head over to Apple Podcast or Spotify and leave a positive 5-star review. It's a simple action that makes a big difference. You can also like this episode on your favorite podcast player or share it with your fellow bookworm friends on social media. Joining the Shelf Addiction Patreon family is another way to support us. For as little as $2 a month, you can help our team create even more amazing bookish content. If Patreon isn't your thing, Consider becoming a supporter on the Spreaker app for just $5 a month and gain access to exclusive audio-only content. You can find me everywhere, including Instagram, X, and TikTok under the handle Shelf Addiction. Join our book club of the same name on the book club's website and app, where we discuss all things bookish and more in a safe space. The Shelf Addiction podcast is a part of the Nerdy Maven Network. Thanks for tuning in.